Hi, fourth graders. Welcome back to reading class. Because we have a short week, because we did not have school yesterday, we are going to review just like we did last week. So last week we reviewed what the theme of a story is and how important that was. This week we're going to review what it means to make an inference. So why would we make an inference? Why is it important? And how do we do that in a story? And we want to review that this week because that's a super important topic, just like we talked about last week with theme. So, what is an inference and what is not an inference? So, an inference is when the reader figures out something from the story that was not completely explained by the author. So, your inference, just like your theme last week, is not going to be stated by your author. They're not going to just tell you. You have to figure it out. And an inference is not saying what is obvious or easily seen. So, let's talk about an example of that. So let's look at our picture over here on the right-hand side. We see a girl in a pretty white dress with flowers. So the girl is wearing a fancy white dress, and we see the boys wearing a suit. So an inference would not be that the girl is wearing a fancy white dress and the boy is wearing a suit. Those are things that are obvious that everybody would know. That is not an inference. Remember, we said an inference is not obvious. So the inference we could make looking at the dress and the suit, we could say that since the girl's wearing a fancy dress and the boy's wearing a suit, that they're getting married. I know that when people get married, they wear fancy dresses and the guys wear suits. So I know, based on what I can see from my picture, that they are going to get married. So when you're making an inference, you as the reader are going to use what you already know, your background knowledge, with what the author wrote, your text evidence, and you're going to put it all together and you're going to make an inference. And a different way to look at that would be to have our inference equation. So your background knowledge, what you know, where you've been, who you've met, different books that you've read, plus your text evidence. So what is your text saying? What's the story telling you is going to give you your inference. And because everybody has a different background knowledge, everybody has been different places, read different books, seen different movies, they know different people, our inferences are going to be different, and that is okay. There's not just one inference about a story. You can make lots of different inferences based on what you know, and it's going to be different. Your inference is going to be different than mine, different than your friends, different than your classmates, and that is okay. So I can infer in 6 different ways. I can think about the setting and why that's important. Where is our story taking place? I can think about the plot and why certain events take place. So I can think about what's going on in my story and why those events are happening, why that's important. I can think about what I already know. Maybe I read a book and it's about a place that I've already been. So what do I know from my own experience? I can think about what the character says. So maybe I've had a conversation that's similar to what my character is saying. I can think about the character's feelings. Maybe you're reading a story about a character being super excited or super sad, and maybe you can think back to a time that you were super excited or super sad. And I can think about my character's actions. So I can think about what are they doing in the story, and maybe I can relate to that. Maybe they're going to an amusement park, and I've been to an amusement park. Maybe they're going to a zoo. Maybe they're reading a new book. And I can think about all those experiences that I have had in my own life, and I can kind of put that together with what I know from the story. So when we are thinking about an inference, some sentence stems. If we're going to write about an inference, you could say, when I read the words and the picture showed, I thought that. When I read the words, ... that means you're just going to fill it in with what words you read. It reminded me of, and you're going to fill that in with your background knowledge. What does it remind you of? So what do you think? So I think that. It says ... So what does the text say? And it shows ... So maybe there's pictures in the story. So I am thinking that. So because of what you read and what you're looking at, what are you thinking? Since the text says ... So what is the text telling you? And I know, so what do you already know? I can infer. So this one is putting our equation together. What does the text tell you? What do you already know? And what inference can you make? And the last one, the character said, so what dialogue is happening? And did, so what did the character do along with what they said? So I think that. So those are all some sentence stems that you could use to write about an inference. So we are going to practice making inferences, and we are going to use some pictures. Now, we're going to do this 3 times. So I want you to look at my picture. And I want you to look at what they're doing. They have their phones out. They look really, really excited. So what inference could you make about that? What do you think is going on in this picture? And I'm going to give you just a second to look at it, to think about it, to use your background knowledge based on what you already know. And we're going to talk about some inferences. So, an inference that I might make, fourth graders, is that maybe they are seeing someone that they really like. So, maybe they're seeing a singer or an author or an actor or even an athlete that they really like. Because a lot of times when you see somebody famous or you see somebody that you look up to, you want to take a picture, you want to take a video just so that you have evidence that you did. You saw them, you were there. So, my inference, fourth graders, looking at their phones, looking at how excited they are, is that they are seeing someone they really like, whether it's a singer or an author or an actor or an athlete, but they are seeing someone that they are so excited about. So let's do that again with this picture. So we're going to look at this picture of this sweet little puppy and all of this mess around him. And I want you to just stop and think for a second. What inference can you make? What's going on in the picture? What do you know about dogs and a mess? And let's make an inference together. So I'm going to give you just a second to think about it. Okay, so when I look at this picture, I think that this sweet little puppy is in trouble because he has such a sad look on his face. And I know that a dog owner or a house owner would not want all of this mess, especially when they're buying them toys. So I know, or I think I can infer from this picture that this dog is sad based on the mess that they're making and that this dog might be in trouble because of the look on their face. All right, and the last one, fourth graders, is this picture. I want you to look at what's going on in this picture. And this is something that could have happened to somebody you know, or maybe you this past week with all the ice and the snow that we've gotten. So, looking at this picture, what do you think is going on? What inference can you make from this picture? I'm going to give you just a second to think about it, and then we'll talk about it. So I know from Miss Cameron's own experience that my front steps and my front walkway got so icy. And I know that if I'm not paying attention, I might slip and fall and I could hurt myself. So I look at this picture and I think that this man was just walking along with his coffee and he was not paying attention and he slipped and fell. So my inference is that he was not paying attention and there was ice and the ice caused him to slip and he is now falling. Now, hopefully he doesn't fall and hurt himself, but my inference is that he is going to fall because I can see him in that motion of falling. So before I show you your assignment today, I just wanted to show you this funny inference cartoon. It's just something silly, but it does talk about and give you some examples of inferencing. So let's watch this first.
All right, you guys, pull over. That's the bank's money right there. I caught you red-handed. You're going to spend a long time behind bars.
Cut! They're not going to jail. That's not in the script.
Are you serious?
Check it out. First, you leap onto their car and yell, "All right, you guys, pull over." And then you say, "That's the bank's money right there." Then I caught you red-handed. Then nothing. See, there is no line about spending time behind bars.
I guess I made an inference. Look. The alarm is going off at the bank. They're running from the police. And they have bags of cash from the bank in the car. I made an inference that they were going to jail because of what they did.
You made an inference? What on earth are you talking about?
Well, I read the text. I thought about what I know, and so I made an inference.
Oh, now I get it. Of course. In real life, they'd have to be arrested and charged. And there'd be a trial and lawyers. And before we knew for sure, they were going to jail.
What if I say, you guys are going to need a good lawyer?
Yes, that works for me. All right, everyone, we'll do it again.
So that was just a silly cartoon where our actor was making an inference. The going to jail part was not in his lines. That wasn't something he was supposed to say, but because he knew if they were robbing somebody that might happen, he made an inference, and our director was not sure what an inference was, so he had to explain it to them. So in your reading classroom today, fourth graders, you are looking for something called Tuesday Inference Review. It is a Google form. When you open it up, it will look like this. So your first question says, before you read, make a prediction about the story based on the title. So you're going to read the title, not the same, and you're going to make a prediction. What do you think might happen in the story? And you're going to type your answer here. Then you are going to read the passage. It's a short little passage. Lots of dialogue goes on. And then you are going to answer the last 3 questions. So where does the story take place? Who are the main characters? And based on the text, why do you think Darby would not want to stay inside with Kaya? Now that does not make sense till you read the text. So you have to make sure that you read it. Make sure that you answer all 4 questions before you hit that submit button. And make sure when you are finished, you come back and hit that mark is done or submit so that your teacher knows you are finished. If you have a hard time reading the passage or you get to a word that you are unsure of, I have linked a video of me reading the passage to you. Now try to read it on your own first, but if you have trouble or if you get to a word that you're unsure of, this video will take you to, or this link will take you to a video of me reading it to you so you can follow along with me. Also, in your reading classroom, I have put a new Inference anchor chart. It says Inference anchor chart February. You do still have one from the first time that we talked about Inference, but this is just an updated version. So as you are working this week, fourth graders, if you get confused or you just need a refresher of what an inference is, this is in your reading classroom. And just a last reminder, fourth graders, that I will have office hours from 2:30 to 3 o'clock. If you have any questions about theme from last week or inference this week, you can stop in and I will help you. Good job, fourth graders. I hope you had a great long weekend and a great Tuesday, and I will see you on Thursday.